Greetings and welcome to another episode of the Unnamed Bracketology podcast. My name is Kerry Miller, joined as always by my good friend Graham Dorn. I apologize in advance for the lighting. Whenever the sun's coming in at this hour, it's terrible in here, even with the flashlight going, but whatever. You don't care about my face. You barely even care about my brackets, but we're having fun anyway. Graham, you had to go into the office today. How was that?
Yeah, DC traffic, not great. Unfortunately, the roads were not particularly clear. So, it could be better, but it is what it is.
That's why you shouldn't have an office. All right, it is midweek, mid-majors extravaganza. That includes the Big East, which is looking more and more like a maximum of a three-bid league, and we'll dive right in with them. Well, I got to scroll up because I have the mid-majors portion of the spreadsheet showing there. There we go. And I had this zoomed to my other screen, so I gotta fix that a little bit. There we go. That works. All right. Big East. It's pretty much just UConn, St. John's, Villanova. I even moved Creighton off the board into effectively dead after losing by 26 to Marquette last night. Um, do you think Creighton is dead? Do you think Seton Hall or Butler has any realistic hope of coming back, or are we now at a max of three for the Big East?
I don't think Creighton is dead. I do think it's going to be a very, very difficult road. Butler and Seton Hall, I think, do have realistic paths. I just don't think either of them is going to do it. So I'm actually leaning towards three bids for the Big East.
I agree. And I think, and we've talked about it before with both St. John's and Villanova. I mean, neither of them has a particularly great win. Whether you count that Villanova win in Milwaukee as true road win or not, I don't believe the official NCAA data is. I think that's still technically a neutral game, and that's Villanova's best win over. I mean, Wisconsin's probably what, a 9 seed right now. So if they were to pick up some questionable losses, they each already do have a loss at home to a team not in the field. Villanova at home against Creighton, St. John's at home against Providence. I mean, it could get iffy. I feel like whoever loses that head-to-head game at the end of February could get interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think both teams are probably going to make the tournament and not just make it. I think both teams are going to be comfortably in, but there is still a path for both teams to potentially miss, and that's part of the problem of the Big East now. Is not just are there teams that don't look like they're going to make the tournament from the outside. It gives a lot of opportunities for bad losses without opportunities for good wins, and especially for building seeds. Now, if you're St. John's and Villanova, you're thinking, how high can we go? And the answer is
Yeah.
not very high. Like it's that there's just not enough opportunities to move up at this point. So I think what we're ultimately going to end up seeing is UConn's going to get an excellent seed. St. John's is probably going to hover in that 5 to 6 range, and then Villanova is probably going to be somewhere between a 7 and a 9.
So would you say where we have them right now, right? St. John's in that 2021 range, Villanova at 30. If neither of them beats UConn, like, is this their absolute ceiling? Like, they would almost have to win out outside of the UConn games in order to really advance from where they are right now.
I mean, I'm looking at Villanova, and I'm just like, where are the wins to justify more than a 7 seed? I just don't think they have them. At least with St. John's, you can look at the win at Villanova to go together with some really good efficiency metrics. When you put those two together, I can see it a little bit higher. But even then, 5 seed's really pushing it. Like a 4 seed's out of the question.
Let's go to UConn really quick, just so we touch on all of the pertinent Big East teams. We still both have them at 4 overall. I wasn't sure if you would have them at 3 or 4, but I dropped Nebraska to 5 and bumped Michigan up to 3. I assume you probably did the same thing.
I actually moved Michigan to 2 and Duke to 3, just because I think this Michigan already had an elite efficiency metric profile. Now they've got not just wins in quad 1, but actually quad 2, they're particularly good in as well. I think with the win over another team handing them their only loss, I feel good about Michigan. Actually, 2 teams, Gonzaga and Nebraska, their only losses are Michigan. I think that's something that really stands out.
That is interesting. I didn't even think about that. UConn's only loss was to Arizona, and they didn't have what Terrace Reed and Braylon Mullins were both out for that game. So, I mean, if it's questionable, I think that will play into it, whether they get a one seed or not. What do you, I haven't even checked what Ken Palm says the odds are. What do you think the odds are that UConn finishes 20-0 in the Big East? I'm going to
The
look up the
way
actual
they're
mathematical
playing,
here.
I'm going to say probably 40% chance, just because they're not playing like a team that's going to go ahead and win all those games.
All right, Ken Palm says 5.8% chance, but that's just mathematics.
You think so?
50%.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know, man. I'm not seeing a lot of quality opposition, to be honest with you. I feel pretty
no,
good
no, no,
about
I agree. But
it.
Ken Palm says the game at St. John's is 50-50. So right there,
Yeah.
max there from that point forward is 50%. They still have to play at
I mean,
Villanova, which is about 50-50. It's a numbers game. I mean, I think it's better than 6%. I think 40 is a bit aggressive, but
I
it's
mean,
probably about a 20. I don't know.
let's think about this too, though. When UConn goes to St. John's, is that going to be your traditional home court environment? UConn fans love to talk about how they go to MSG and MSG is a second home court for them. It's going to be a St. John's crowd, but it's not going to be a dominant St. John's crowd. I think it's not as tricky of a road test for UConn as it might be for somebody else who's not going to bring so many away fans.
Kind of crazy that game is on a Friday, by the way. We also have Michigan at Michigan State this coming Friday. I mean, there was a time where I would tell my wife, like, let's just make plans on Friday night because there's never any basketball to watch, but that has changed considerably in the last few years. Next couple of Fridays are pretty loaded. Let's go down to the mid majors now. Oh, I got to zoom out a little bit more. That's probably good. Is that everybody? Yeah, that's the whole board. All right. So we have six teams in, 6.5, depending on whether you have San Diego State as the automatic out of the Mountain West or not. You're close on San Diego State. I would have them out if I didn't have to have them in. Not that I have to, but anybody in this tier in particular that you want to hit on, aside from maybe Miami, Ohio, who just keeps winning everything by the skin of their teeth?
Yeah, I think to the Miami point, they keep winning everything by the skin of their teeth. I think if they were a little bit more dominant in some of these games, the committee might be more willing to let them lose a game and then lose one
Yeah.
in the conference tournament. But the way they're playing, I just think the committee's going to be looking to leave them out if they possibly can. Because let's be honest, they don't look like they're one of the best. Not, I mean, arguably not even one of the best 68 teams in the country, let alone one of the best 37 at larges. Like, they're just not playing that well. They're winning. They're not playing that well. So I think if you look at Miami, I really am starting earlier this year. When we started this podcast, I was leaning towards them having a little bit more wiggle room. These games are so tight. I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, the games are so tight, and they haven't played a quad one game. Two of their three quad two wins were like on the road against like 120 net. Like they're near the bottom of quad two, could possibly slip to quad three when all is said and done. I don't think they're going to have enough meat on the bone. And then, as you mentioned, like their predictives are really going to indicate that maybe they don't belong. But I mean, they could change that narrative by blowing out Buffalo and Marshall in the next whatever 10 days, but they're just not going to have that marquee win. There's no way they're going to get one.
Yeah, and I think to the marquee win point, when we were talking about Memphis yesterday and how the committee really cares a little bit more about the wins and losses than the efficiency metrics, I agree with that statement. I said it for a reason. Like, in general, I feel that way. I think this might be a rare exception where with Memphis and South Carolina from a couple years ago, they played so many quality games that you could say, okay, we don't think they're the best team in the world, but they earned it. I don't know
Yeah.
that the committee's going to look at Miami and say they earned it. It's like, yeah, it's just avoided losses to teams that had no business being close to the NCAA tournament in the first place. So I just don't know that they're going to get any benefit of the doubt, especially with that non-conference strength of schedule.
Yeah, there's a major difference between what Miami, Ohio is doing this year and what to compare it to other teams, what Providence and Wisconsin did a couple of years ago, where it was just like every single win was by 2 points, but they were beating quad one teams. They were racking up those, resume metrics, even if their efficiency metrics weren't. Now, Miami, Ohio's resume metrics are fine. They'll put them in the conversation, but yeah, I don't think between the predictives and the fact that they played possibly the worst non-conference schedule in the entire country. It's going to be really tough for them, but I'd love to see them run the table. I made the joke last night. It's going to be a great 1-9 matchup between 35-0 teams when it's Arizona against Miami, Ohio in the second round of the NCAA tournament, because that's probably about, even if they run the table, I don't even know if they can get above like an 8 seed.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, when I first saw that comment you made, my thought was, I mean, they might put Arizona and Miami together in a 1-9, but Miami's not winning that first round game anyway, so it's not going to happen. Like, that's like, great story, Miami, but they are not playing tournament level basketball. Like, they just aren't. And, maybe they'll turn it around, but this has been a few weeks now where they are just barely scraping by the skin of their teeth.
It would be funny if they get a 9 seed and they run into Kentucky as the 8 seed and then undefeated Arizona as the 1 seed. It's like, if you want to prove you're in the Sweet 16, you're going to freaking prove it, Miami. But at St. Louis last night, almost. I mean, survive in advance. That's all that matters at this point for them. But they had to come back. Apparently they came back. I don't know. The ESPN Plus feed cut out. I didn't get to see the end of it. But Robbie Avila saved them, and they are still a one-loss team that only that loss on a neutral court to Stanford. We've talked about that a couple of times recently. That wild finish, fouled up 3 with 3 seconds left, and somehow lost in regulation. But and I made this point about St. Louis, whatever, on Sunday, whenever we talked about them, that they're kind of looking like what Utah State was 2 weeks ago, where if they start picking up losses, they could drop in a hurry just because they don't have those wins. I did find it interesting while putting this together. VCU probably not going to make it, but VCU might get 3 teams into the field. That's St. Louis's best win. That's New Mexico's best win, and it's one of Utah State's best wins. So, credit to the Rams for helping out the mid majors here.
Yeah, I look at VCU's profile and I keep thinking, I think they're a tournament level team. They just don't have the results that I want to see. But I keep staring at their profile a lot. It's just They're not winning quad one games, and they're getting opportunities to do it. And that's sometimes the worst part is if you've had enough opportunities. It's like UNC last year. It's like they had so many opportunities in quad one. Difference is VCU's playing like lesser quad one games. That UNC team was playing the best of the best possible quad one games. They were like quad 1A elite games that they kept playing and losing. So I think VCU, really good team. Would love to see them in the NCAA tournament, but I think it's probably going to have to be through an A10 championship.
Is that going to be a new tier on your tournament chances? Quad 1A elite or quad 1 double A, quad 1 quad A? I don't know. But yeah, I agree. Even quad 1A results sometimes like, okay, that's not that great. Like a road win over Ohio State is a quad 1A game. It's like, great. You barely beat a team that's barely in the field. I wonder if they'll revisit that at some point, counting, at 75 the same way as a home against 30 or whatever. I don't know. It's better than it used to be where it was just straight up, the top 50 buckets or whatever. But have you had any thoughts on that? Or, I mean, and we always preach, like, look at the actual results. Don't just look at the quadrant records. But it's hard not to look at the quadrant records.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this actually a fair amount of times talking to other bracketologists. I think they should have 12 categories, and I think that would sum it up for people real fast. They'd be like, because I mean, how often do you get this, Kerry? They'll be like, we have 4 quad 1 wins just like them, and I'm like, Texas Tech quad 1 wins are really, really good. Your quad 1 wins are like, not the same thing. But I think if you had like 12 categories, you'd see real quick. It's like you look at Miami, Ohio's schedule, and you'd say, man, this is like, these are not good games that you're playing. Whereas if you look at a team like Gonzaga, you'd say, well, you're playing a lot of mediocre kind of mid-tier games. but you also played a lot of top-notch games in the non-conference as well.
Yeah, you want to touch on Gonzaga a little bit because when I was looking at them today, I feel like I am too high on them. They don't have enough quality wins, but I've just it's one of the problems of doing this every day is teams just kind of sneak up on you and you don't you don't ever feel like really scrubbing them until they lose and it's like, oh, okay, now I can ding them. But I think you're right. Maybe they should be a 3 seed, not a 2 seed.
I mean, you said it all. That's exactly what I said. They didn't have a qualitative average of 9 previously, but that's really just, I mean, it fits. Like, that's just about how they look. You look at their wins, there's nothing spectacular. The one loss was brutally bad, but still some nice victories over Kentucky, UCLA, Alabama. I think when you add it all together, not an elite resume, but it's still a very, very good resume. I know some people are still talking about them as a potential 1 seed, and I just don't think it's going to happen. Maybe if they end the season with one loss, but even then,
Yeah.
I just don't really see it. Like, there's no win that stands out for Gonzaga this year and says 1 seed, and not even enough quad one wins in general. Like, there have been some years where Gonzaga is like, I guess we could sneak them onto 4 overall. I'm not seeing it this year.
Yeah, and to your point that you made yesterday, right? This isn't a standard 1 seed year. Like Gonzaga can't even hold a candle to Arizona, Duke, or UConn in terms of quality wins stockpile, and somebody from the Big Ten is going to end up on the one line. So yeah, I don't see Gonzaga getting there. I have felt like there was a pretty hard line in the sand between 5 and 6 for about a week now. Gonzaga was almost 6 by default, and then I'm probably going to scrub them down soon. What they play St. Mary's on Saturday, I think. Maybe that will give me a reason to drop them, or maybe it'll be a reason to keep them at 6 if they destroy the Gales. I don't know. Last thought before we wrap up. You already mentioned you're always looking at VCU. If one of those 5 teams over on the right, George Mason, Santa Clara, Tulsa, VCU, or Belmont, who's kind of sort of sneaking into the conversation, although they do have, I think, 3 losses. If one of those 5 is going to make it as an at-large, who do you think it is? I think it's probably Santa Clara.
I was right between Santa Clara and George Mason. I really think it's 50-50 between those two. I think VCU, to me, is the best team from the bunch. But I don't like their at-large chances just based on what their current resume looks like. There's just too much ground to make up. Mason, do I think Santa Clara is a better team than Mason? Yes, I do. But I also like that schedule for George Mason. I think there's a real path there. If they can beat St. Louis, could be a bid for George Mason. Santa Clara might have to beat Gonzaga. That's a pretty tough road to hoe. So I'm going to go with a 50-50 between George Mason and Santa Clara on who has the best chance.
Just pulled up VCU's schedule real quick because I don't have it on here. So they have 6 losses. Their best wins: Virginia Tech on a neutral, South Florida on a neutral, at Rhode Island, which I guess George Mason didn't do that, so at least VCU has that. But yeah, they just don't have the quality wins. They're not going to be able to get them, even if they win at St. Louis. If they win the home game against George Mason, I don't think they're going to have enough meat on the bone. But I do agree, they're a tournament caliber team that just hasn't been able to get those wins this season. But that will conclude today's conversation. Until next time, take care and enjoy the hoops.